Let's start. So thank you everybody for joining. Today, this is our first Twitter space from AirGap, and we are extremely happy to have two speakers with us. On the one side, we have Andreas Gassman, and on the other side, we have the CEO of Keystone, Lixin Lui. And why don't you introduce yourself first of all? Maybe let's start with Andy.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that most of you who are here already know AirGap, secure cryptocurrency wallet. Yeah, I'm the lead developer of the project, and I'm happy to be here to talk about why cold wallets are important.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can hear you.
Okay, so hello, everyone. My name is Li Xin. I'm the CEO of Keystone Hardware Wallet. For Keystone Hardware Wallet, we've been in the space for almost 5 years. We started making hardware back in 2017, and for the first 3.5 years, we were basically focused on Bitcoin. So we come from the Bitcoin maximalist community, and then in the middle of last year we started working on Ethereum and Web3, and luckily we were invited by MetaMask to get our hardware wallet Keystone integrated with MetaMask. So right now we support both MetaMask extension as well as MetaMask mobile, and also we initiated the QR code protocol in Ethereum community. And together with Andy and also the MetaMask team, we raised an EIP 4527, so that makes Keystone can be the QR code signer for MetaMask, as well as making the AirGap one of the QR code signer that's compatible with MetaMask extension as well as MetaMask mobile. So yeah, actually that collaboration with MetaMask brought us and Andy and the AirGap team together. And I'm so happy to be here to be one of the guests to talk about security, talk about cold wallet, hardware wallet. Yeah, I'm super excited for this. Thank you guys.
Cool. Hey, thank you very much for the introduction of both of you. We have a few questions that we think we should discuss. And I think the first one should be, why are cold wallets a necessity and not an option to store someone's crypto assets? Well, so yeah, let's start on that.
Okay, so yeah, maybe I'll go first. I think the problem with that a lot of people are not aware of is that with hot wallets, if you have the private key on an internet connected device, your funds are actually quite vulnerable because, well, if someone gains access to your device, it's very easy for an attacker to steal your private keys and steal all your money. And because we are in a decentralized world in the cryptocurrency space, it means that your funds are really gone. Like nobody can help you, not us, the developers of the wallet, nor the people that work on the blockchains themselves. So it's really important to protect your private keys. That's like the most important thing that you have to take care of. But at the same time, like taking care of a private key is a lot of work, and people, well, nowadays they don't pay that much attention and they just want to try out something quick. So that's kind of a very serious challenge to solve. And cold wallets do this by basically taking the private key and putting it onto a device that is much more secure and generally doesn't have an internet connection, which means that you can interact with all the latest DeFi and DeFi projects while still having the private key on a secure device that is much, much harder for an attacker to gain access to. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the introduction of why cold wallets are necessary. Maybe, Lixin, you want to add something, or maybe talk a little bit about the solutions that are out there currently?
Yeah, I think to echo Andy's explanation, one thing I can share is that several months ago, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the accident in Solana community. So several months ago, one of the top Solana software wallet, the users they lost their crypto, their Solana and the tokens on Solana blockchain as well as the NFTs. People were pretty shocked because of that accident, because the accident happened because that software wallet was closed source, and they were using some kind of statistic tool to manage their users' behavior, to do some statistics on their user behavior, but their developer didn't use that tool properly. So the software wallet was uploading users' recovery phrase from their software wallet to the cloud service, to a cloud service. And then because that cloud service gathered a lot of recovery phrase from the user. So until now, we even don't know that if it was one of the employee of that company or some kind of employee from that cloud service from that statistical tool to get the recovery phrase and use that to store the assets from the user. So I want to use that example to tell people, to tell the audience that if you're using a software wallet, usually that software wallet put the recovery phrase or put the private key inside the device, either it's your laptop or it's your mobile phone, as it's internet connected. So there's a huge attack surface on that. Not only something like the statistic tool, but also some other malicious software. So we know that you run a lot of software on your laptop. So for example, if one of them got hacked and maybe it can steal the recovery phrase from your wallet on your laptop. So rule number one for protecting your for ultimately protect your recovery phrase is that you should remove that recovery phrase from your online device, either it's your laptop or your mobile phone. So here introduces the something we're building, which is a hardware wallet. So basically, right now there are two types of hardware wallet. One is the hardware wallet like Ledger. So Ledger uses a USB cable to get it connected to your laptop, so that you can use Ledger to protect your recovery phrase and use Ledger to sign a transaction. Basically, when you are trying to sign a transaction, usually you use some kind of software wallet on your laptop, but there's no private key in that software wallet. That software wallet just it has your Ethereum address or other addresses for other blockchains. And that software wallet can get your balance and get your transaction history from the blockchain. And when you're trying to send a transaction, usually you use that software wallet to set up the transaction, but the private key are not there. So then the software wallet will talk to your hardware wallet. So in Ledger's case, it uses a USB to send the unsigned transaction to Ledger for signing. And after sign the transaction, the hardware wallet will send the signed transaction to the software wallet and broadcast to the blockchain. So this is basically how a hardware wallet works in a simple transaction. So basically, there are two kinds of hardware wallet. One is something like Ledger. They use USB. The other kind of hardware wallet is like Keystone, also like AirGap. We use QR code as the medium for the hardware wallet and the software wallet to communicate with each other. So basically, a huge benefit of the QR code is that QR code is less vulnerable than USB, because with QR code you can always, because we use open source QR code protocol. It's not encrypted. So with QR code, you always know what you are sending into your hardware wallet and what is sending out of your hardware wallet. So it's more verifiable. And also with QR code, it's less vulnerable because with USB, it's continuous connectivity, which means that there's a larger attack surface for a hacker to send some malicious code or malicious transaction into your device. And this is one thing, a very important different from the USB and the QR code. And another benefit of the QR code is that because if you're a Ledger user, I think last year you must have suffered from several major disconnections between Ledger and MetaMask. But with USB, it's much more compatible, which means that you can easily scan the QR code. You don't need to worry about the bad connection of a USB cable. And also, I think if you're a Ledger user, sometimes if you like move the Ledger device a little bit, and then the USB cable was disconnected, and you need to connect the device again, you need to type in the pin with smashing the two little buttons again. So that's the downside of the USB. And also for QR code, it also makes a hardware wallet more compatible, not only with extensions on laptop, but also with mobile app. So, which means that you can use your hardware wallet to easily manage your digital assets on the go. And right now Keystone has integrated with MetaMask Mobile as well as AirGap, which means that you can use your old mobile phone to install AirGap, or you can use Keystone to use that as a hardware wallet with your mobile phone, with your MetaMask Mobile on your mobile phone. So it's much more convenient for the user. And yeah, basically that are the differences between USB style hardware wallet and the QR style hardware wallet.
Yeah, so thanks for that comparison. I'd like to add one more thing that is not directly linked to like the types of the devices, because in theory, Ledger could do the same thing, and I think they even have a product like Ledger Blue or something. But one big difference is that our devices, like with AirGap and with Keystone, they have a much bigger screen. So this also means that we can display much more information to the user, because on a Ledger, a small screen, it's sometimes hard to see what you're actually doing or signing. But I think that's something we may get to later when we talk about blind signing and stuff like that. There is a separate point for that. Yeah, so maybe the Solana hack that you mentioned, that's a good point, because we actually planned to talk about some other incidents as well. So I think I'll just continue there, because the Solana hack, Solana hack, it's not really related to Solana. It was that one wallet that had this problem. The thing is, there are like two different things that the user has to be aware of or take care of, because on one side you can have a simple developer mistake, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's assume they did not do this with malicious intent. But in this case, with this analytics software, that may have just been a simple developer mistake that resulted in, like, I think 8,000 wallets being compromised, if memory serves correctly. And I mean, that's just something that shouldn't be possible, right? I mean, even if it's just like mistakes happen during development, that's just a fact. But that a simple error can result in 8,000 wallets being compromised within like seconds, or like I don't know, a few days, how long it took. That's just something that shouldn't be possible. There was another incident similar, where it was hopefully without malicious intent, which was a wallet that used a stock keyboard that had spell checking enabled. So every mnemonic that was typed in was actually sent to Google to be spell checked. I mean, luckily Google, or nobody abused this actually, but someone found this out, found this in the code, and well, they quickly removed it. But again, it's like a simple mistake. Nobody probably thought about this feature, or that some devices would do that, but it could have resulted in disaster as well. But then you have the other side also, which is people actively trying to exploit wallets. And there was one incident that I remember. There are actually two, but one was a lot bigger, where a developer took over some piece of code from another developer, and then he added malicious code to it, and he specifically targeted cryptocurrency wallet with it. And due to the way how development works, that dependency, that specific version of the dependency, actually ended up in that wallet, meaning that a malicious actor was actually able to inject code into a wallet, which would that the code basically did send the private key to the server if the user had enough money. So he didn't do it always. He only did it if the user had like more than a few Bitcoins at the time. I think luckily as well there, nothing happened because it was caught by accident by an unrelated developer. He caught like something. He saw that something was weird, and then an investigation was started, and people were able to find out what happened. So that attack was basically stopped very early on. But again, here that could have been much worse. So summing it all up, there are malicious actors out there trying to steal money from people, and there are also mistakes being made. And with hot wallets, it's just like there is no security mechanism in place that can protect you from either of those cases. If one thing happens and if the wrong thing happens, then your key is compromised. If you use a hardware wallet, especially if you use one that is QR based, because there's not even a USB cable connecting the two, there would have to be like by accident, it's almost impossible to leak the private key. It would have to be malicious, and even then you kind of have to compromise multiple systems to actually get the private key to the attacker. Because if you simply like can change, for example, like you can install a virus on the computer, then that will not really help you because the key is securely stored on your offline device. Okay, yeah. So Lixin, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, actually, I want to add one thing here is that uh, for for users, if you wanted to better protect your digital currency, I think one thing you need to put in mind is that what you're doing. So security is not an easy thing, and security is not a zero or one thing. Uh, Actually, what we do, like what Keystone do and what AirGap is doing, we're trying to raise the bar for a hacker to hack you. If you're using a software wallet to put your card preference in that, actually the bar is relatively lower because the attacker has the different ways, just like what Andy has mentioned, that they can inject some kind of malicious code. They can write a malicious library and try to make the software developer to use that library, and they can also use some kind of like malicious software. For example, they make a malicious software and use that, distribute that on some kind of uh, websites, and so that you download that on your MacBook, and then it has some attack. It attacks your software wallet and get it hacked. So basically, one of the most key thing we should remember is that we should make the hacker harder to hack you, and just like I said, one of the most important thing is remove your recovery phrase or remove your private key from your laptop or from your mobile phone. And yeah, that's the reason why we're building our product. And also another thing we want to mention is that like for Keystone and also for Andy's product AirGap, because we're so focusing on security, so actually we're offering some security features, not only just remove your recovery phrase or remove your private key from your laptop, but also we're offering some security features like Shamir backup for your recovery phrase. And also for Keystone, we also allow the user to use a dice to roll a dice to generate the recovery phrase. And also we also support other features like Bitcoin multisig and also Ethereum multisig to give our users some enhanced layer for the security. And yeah, so if you dive deeper into our product, you will see that we were very keen to security, and also we had multiple features to add different layers of security to that. And another thing I wanted to echo Andy is that Andy just mentioned that compared to like Ledger, both Keystone and AirGap, because AirGap can be installed on your on the mobile phone, which means that you can have a big touchscreen. And for Keystone, we have a 4-inch touchscreen. So here I want to emphasize that user experience is part of the security because human error is the biggest reason for crypto loss. So imagine that you're using something with a tiny screen and with 2 little buttons. You need to smash those buttons from time to time, and you need to like smash tens of times to input a PIN, or you need to smash another tens of times to confirm a transaction, which is a disaster for user experience. And most likely, if you do it in a long time, for example, you do that for 5 or 6 years, maybe sometime you will make a mistake. You didn't check something very well, or you didn't check some like key information very well, or you accidentally did something on your device, which will lead to your crypto loss. So again, user experience, previously for the last several years, people are talking security about hardware wallet. They only talk about the technical security, but from the design, from our team, from our design principle, one of the key design principle is that we should put user experience in our mind when we develop our product, because that's part of the security. Yeah, that's something I want to echo with Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Can you hear me? Yeah, because my microphone thingy didn't move. Okay, so yeah, that's actually a very good point with the usability, because like one of the things that I have also seen that is kind of related is like phishing attacks are something a lot of people fall for, especially like in the browser, like interacting with the browser. And then suddenly you get a pop-up where you see MetaMask, and then MetaMask suddenly asks you to re-enter the passphrase, or like the 24 words. And this happened to me once, and I have to say this was like the moment where I realized that it's actually quite easy to fall for such a phishing attack, because I have also set up my MetaMask on a browser before. So I was familiar with this UI and everything, like entering my 24 words in the browser. I mean, obviously it was like a specific mnemonic that I use for MetaMask, but when this phishing website popped up, it looked exactly the same way, and it kind of made me feel like, okay, so this is just MetaMask asking me for confirmation for something security related. And I can really see how a lot of people who are not so aware of all these scams can fall for this. And I think that's another kind of a psychological reason why a hardware wallet is kind of improving on that, because you know that the seed phrase only goes on your hardware wallet. It never ever goes anywhere else. So you are not tempted by such phishing attacks to enter anything on an online device. So that's just something that came to mind when you were talking about the UI. But in general, I completely agree with what you said, especially like if you if you do a lot with crypto transactions and you have to sign a lot of operations, having a very small screen is actually, it's hard to verify what you sign. And if it's hard, then you just stop doing it after some time. And with the bigger screen and with also like bigger memory, we can actually do much more in those areas than other hardware wallets can. I think you have an interesting feature called like in eliminating blind signing. Maybe you can quickly touch on that, because that's also something that AirGap is planning to add, because it's a very interesting one.
Yeah, and also on Keystone with the big touchscreen, another thing we're working on, just to echo Andy, something we're working on is we're also trying to use the big screen to decode the complicated transaction. For example, let's say a DeFi transaction. When you are swapping your Ethereum to other tokens on Uniswap, actually you are interacting with the Uniswap smart contract, and that's a complicated transaction. So you have a lot of inputs to send to the Uniswap smart contract. So for those inputs, actually, you need to verify all of them on your hardware wallet. Otherwise, if your software wallet is hacked, let's say your MetaMask is hacked, and the hacker will send some like malicious transaction through your MetaMask to your hardware wallet for signing. If you cannot verify that transaction on your hardware wallet, for example, your Uniswap swapping transaction, and then you may be hacked. For example, you swap some Ethereum to some Uni token, and then your Uni token, after the swapping, the Uni token may be sent to the hacker's address. So this is something we're working on, and also we're collaborating with AirGap and other wallets. So we're trying to mimic that attack surface, which is we're trying to use the APIs of those smart contracts to decode those smart contract transactions so people can know exactly what they're signing. This is also something we're working on, and we're trying to improve for the Web3 community. And also we're also doing this for other blockchains like Aptos, also Polkadot, and Solana. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I just wanted to, by the way, mention that if anyone has any questions, then feel free to, well, ask them, or I think you may even join as a speaker if you want to, if you have a question. So just let us know. Yeah, I think there is one more thing that you brought up before that I want to highlight, because that's also a feature that AirGap supports and that I'm very excited about, and that's the entropy collection using dice or coin flips. So maybe a little bit of background. Basically, when you create a seed, the 24 words, you need some kind of randomness to do that. So because only a very random seed is a secure one. If you just try to do it by hand, then you will probably end up with a very bad one. So that's why almost every device nowadays has something called a secure random number generator, or a hardware random number generator, that is supposed to give you a random output that nobody can kind of predict. But first of all, we don't really know if the hardware is really doing what it's supposed to do. And second of all, we also don't really know if the wallet, so if like the software uses it correctly, or if they kind of have some malicious code in there to not use a that random number generator. So if you create a seed, usually you just click on a button and then you just trust whatever device or software you use that they give you a secure seed. But you don't really know if it's really secure. It could be either way. So this feature, the deterministic entropy, or like the entropy collection with dice rolls and coin flips, actually allows you to use, well, as the name says, coin flips or dice rolls that you do like by hand, and then you enter the sequence that you get from it, and it will generate a mnemonic for you. And then you can use a separate device. So for example, you could use AirGap and Keystone, and then you enter the same sequence on both devices. And if you get the same output, the same mnemonic, then you know that the sequence that you rolled or coin flipped locally, in like without any help of any technology, that one really results in that specific seed. And that kind of gives you the certainty that there is no malicious code or no malicious hardware involved that could tamper with your seed. And that's actually something that many people are not really paying attention to as well, even though it's a very important thing. And I'm very happy that we now have this feature, and Keystone has it as well. So it's great to verify on two devices that you get the same output.
Yeah, actually, I think the algorithm. I'm not 100% sure about AirGap, uh, but the uh, but the dice rolling uh, recovery first generation algorithm Keystone is using is aligned with the Ian Coleman's
Yeah,
BIP39 tool, so that you can not only use Keystone or AirGap to verify the result, you can also go to the Ian Coleman's BIP39 tool to check whether it's getting you the right result. So I think that's also echo the model that don't trust but verify. I think this is very
exactly.
important. Yeah, this is
You can also,
very crypto native.
yeah, it's actually like the dice rolls. You can also use cold card, I think. So we are all using kind of the same implementation. That's great. But the coin flips are,
No. Code Card is not using the Ian Coleman's algorithm. They're
yeah.
using
Well,
their own.
I mean, the only difference is that they index. They have the if you roll a one, they interpret it as zero. So you just have to shift it by one. So in AirGap, you actually have a drop down where you can select default, which is what we and Keystone and Ian Coleman uses, or you can change to cold card, and then we just shift it by one. So it's like the algorithm is the same. It's just the numbers are kind of interpreted differently, like from 1 to 6 or from 0 to 5. But
Okay,
actually, even
good to
better
know.
than this is in my opinion, the coin flips. Because with coin flips, you have a one or a zero, meaning that you basically get a binary, and you can actually take a pen and paper and you write down the sequence, and then you can just check on the BIP39 word list if that's actually the word that it's supposed to be there. The only word that you cannot verify is the last one, because the last one is a checksum and you need to hash. You need to have a hash for that, like a SHA hash, and you can't do that by hand. But if you verify the first 23 words, then, I mean, the last one can only be one of 8 words. So there is almost no risk there. And we actually have we actually in AirGap we actually have a BIP39 word list feature included, meaning that you can see, like, you can search for the binary representation of a word, and it will show you the word that it corresponds to. So it makes the verification easier. Yeah. So I think we discussed most of the important topics. Yeah. Do you have maybe? Yeah, I think we can start to wrap it up. Lixin, do you have something to talk about, like what your plans are for the future, like the
Okay,
next couple of weeks, months, or maybe even years? Also, like,
okay,
yeah, okay,
yeah. I think for the next several weeks, we're going to release some big integrations. For example, next week, we're going to release the integration with Gnosis Safe iOS mobile app. So you can use Keystone. And also, I think that's also benefiting AirGap because you can use Keystone to sign a multi-sig Ethereum or EVM multi-sig transaction on Gnosis Safe iOS version. And also, we're going to release another integration with a wallet called Subwallet, which is SUB Subwallet, which is one of the top wallets in the Polkadot ecosystem. I think that will happen next week. And in the next 2 months, we're going to release integration with Kepler wallet, which is the top wallet, the number one wallet in the Cosmos ecosystem. And also, we're collaborating with Andy, with AirGap team, trying to maximize the usage of QR code signing in the Tezos ecosystem. We're also trying to reach out to some of the top Cardano wallets, the software wallets in the Cardano ecosystem to get integrated. I think that will happen in the next few months. And also, we're exploring with some multi-chain wallets because previously we were mostly working with some single chain wallets like Bitcoin wallets, like MetaMask and other software wallets. But also our users also asking us if we can integrate with some of the top software wallets that support multi-chain. So it's easier for them to manage all their crypto assets in one application. So we're also exploring that part. And also, we're developing our next generation hardware wallet. And hopefully, and one of the big improvements of our next generation hardware wallet is that um, we will make it much, much cheaper, but also maintain the current feature of the big touchscreen and QR code scanning. We are also adding USB into our next generation of product because right now we strongly feel that a hardware wallet, right now we strongly feel that in the next few years, every software wallet will have a compatible hardware wallet, perfectly compatible hardware wallet, which obviously is not Ledger. But Keystone wanted to be that ultimate signer for all those software wallets, and we're trying to maximize the compatibility of Keystone with those software wallets. So we're adding, even though USB is not as safe as QR code, but we're also adding USB to our next generation product, so it's easier for you to sign a transaction with your laptop, especially when you don't have a web camera or you're not using a laptop. So that's something we're trying to improve. And by the way, the price will be much, much cheaper, and the product will also be more open source. And hopefully, we will also use two secure elements. So right now, we're using only one secure element. The next generation will use two different secure elements from two different vendors, which means that that is significantly adding security protection to the product because the hacker needs to hack two different secure elements from two different vendors to get the private key. So those are some of the big improvements we're working on for our next generation. And actually, this is the first time that I talk about it publicly.
Oh, wow. That's an honor that you announce, well, not really announce, but talk about your new version here. I'm very excited to see it with this two secure elements. Yeah, that will be interesting to see. Cool. Yeah, so, and I guess I'll also talk a little bit about AirGap and our plans for the future. So our users have probably seen that, I mean, it's not the future plan, but last week we released a new version that also included a new design. So we now have a new logo. And we had a lot of changes in that version that increased security and made the usability a lot better. We also push a lot in the side of our documentation. So we now have feature videos explaining all of the features that AirGap offers. They are on YouTube now, also on our documentation pages, to just basically explain the different security features that we have and how the users can use it and how it helps the users to be more secure. We're also working on some improvements on the technical side. Like one of the big things we are working on right now is what we call isolated modules, because that's kind of, I'm trying to not go too much into detail, because it's very technical, but currently the way AirGap is built is already modular. So it's kind of straightforward to add new chains to it because everything works the same way. It just obviously needs to have to be aware of how that specific chain works. But ultimately, it's still kind of our own AirGap's responsibility to include new chains into our project. But we actually would like to change that in a way that we provide kind of the application and the shell, so to speak, for other developers of many different chains to provide their own module that can be loaded into AirGap to add functionality to it. What that means is, for example, that someone who is a Bitcoin maximalist, he could actually kind of download AirGap and then disable all of the modules that are not related to Bitcoin and delete them. And then he only has the Bitcoin module. meaning that there is nothing that can interfere with it, no other code from third parties that could compromise the security. And on the other hand, if let's just say, for example, someone from the Monero community would actually really like to integrate Monero into AirGap, he could actually create his own module, and then that module could, by everyone who wants it, it could be dynamically loaded into AirGap. So it would not require us to approve it or to kind of release a new version to the store. So that's a very exciting thing because it will allow new chains or new coins to be added to AirGap faster and also in a more secure manner. And of course, we are committed to staying 100% open source, and we are also happy that now on the Wallet Scrutiny website that checks for reproducible builds, we now finally have the fully reproducible flag again. And because we had some build issues in the past where it was like 50-50 reproducible, which wasn't great, but now we finally sorted that out and it works. Yes. So I think that is it from the AirGap side. Nick, were there any questions from the community?
So far, I have not seen any questions from the community. Maybe if anybody of you guys have a question, please raise it now and let me know. Maybe everything was explained extremely well.
Yeah, there's nothing more to talk about ever.
Yes, you both went really deep into detail, which is a good thing. And yeah, I think let's wrap it up. We actually, as promised, at 45 minutes. That's actually perfect. Yeah, thank you all for listening, and share it if you like. And yeah, we're looking forward to do more of this sort of things. Let us know with whom we should talk next, what next topic it should be. I'm pretty sure we will have you, Lixin, again on the Twitter space. And yeah, thanks very much for joining. And I'm looking forward to hear feedback from all of you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Goodbye guys. Bye bye.